Birthday Celebrations Episode 1. On the streets of Gonzales City, Julius Reed hurried towards the Radcliffe family villa, carrying a pot of chicken soup. Today was Old Master Radcliffe's 70th birthday, and all the clan members were rushing to the Radcliffe mansion to celebrate. As a son-in-law who had married into the family, Julius naturally was no exception. Despite no one considering him a part of the Radcliffe family, at least in name, he was still a Radcliffe. He had taken special care to stew a pot of chicken soup that day, planning to bring it for Old Master Radcliffe's birthday. After all, he didn't have much money in his pocket and couldn't afford to buy a gift. From a distance, he could see luxury cars filling up the space around the villa. He guessed he was probably the only one arriving on foot. Upon reaching the entrance of the Radcliffe family villa, Julius saw a stunningly beautiful woman standing at the door, looking around anxiously. Her face even bore a trace of worry. Despite being meters apart, he could still feel her distinct temperament. The woman's name was Quella Radcliffe, Old Master Radcliffe's granddaughter. She was also his wife in name only. 3 years ago, Julius arrived in Gonzales City and, by a twist of fate, cured Old Master Radcliffe of an affliction he had suffered from for years. Old Master Radcliffe was overjoyed and promised to fulfill any request for Julius, who simply pointed at Quella and said one sentence: "I want to marry her." It wasn't clear why, but at that moment, Julius, who had lost his memory, felt she was the one he was looking for, although the Radcliffe family was extremely unwilling. Since Old Master Radcliffe's word was out, they had to fulfill the promise for the sake of family face. Thus, Julius became a son-in-law who had married into the Radcliffe family. This was when his memory began. Regarding his past, he couldn't remember anything, not even his name, other than knowing he was Julius Reed. To be precise, Julius was a man with amnesia. Although he faced disdain day after day, at least he didn't have to worry about food and clothing. Let them curse if they wanted to. After all, he could just pretend not to hear. "What are you holding in your hand?" Upon seeing Julius approaching with something in hand, Quella asked with a stern face. She was irritated at the very sight of her own husband. Since marrying into the Radcliffe family 3 years ago, Julius had done nothing but sweep floors and cook at home. If he really was useless, Quella would have accepted it. But 3 years ago, he had clearly cured Old Master Radcliffe of his long-standing ailments. That incident once caused a sensation in Gonzales City, and even the Radcliffe family thought they had found a treasure. Otherwise, why would Zaid Radcliffe agree to marry his most beloved granddaughter to Julius? But over those 3 years, except for cooking and sweeping, Julius had not shown any other impressive qualities. This made the Radcliffe family suspect whether he had just been lucky at the time. That's why their attitude towards him had grown worse. "I stewed some chicken soup, which I'm sure Grandpa will like," said Julius with a slight smile. Although his work was limited to laundry and cooking, the dishes he made were comparable to those of a 5-star chef. When Old Master Radcliffe asked him to make a request, Julius said he wanted to marry Quella. Even though in the years after their marriage it had been a marriage in name only, he had never regretted it. "Come in with me," Quella said with a helpless sigh. She had thought about divorce, but such a step would undoubtedly disgrace the Radcliffe family. It would even cast the whole family in shame for ingratitude. Old Master Radcliffe would certainly not allow her to do so. As the two just entered the Radcliffe mansion, they saw many clan members arriving with big and small packages. "Quella, it's been so long. You've become even more beautiful," said Quella's elder sister, Tess. Tess had married into the Leopold family in Gonzales City last year, a match that was considered equal in social standing. With the Leopold family's entertainment business thriving in recent years and their wealth increasing, along with Tess's love for vanity, she rarely missed an opportunity to put down Julius and Quella. Big sister, brother-in-law. Quella subconsciously kept some distance from Julius. Although they were sisters, Tess's mocking could be even more vicious than that of enemies. "Yo, Quella, you've been married for 3 years and there's still no news of a baby. Could it be that your good-for-nothing husband is incapable?" Tess raised her eyebrows and said with a mocking tone. "There are 3 unfilial acts, and the worst is to have no descendants. We're all waiting for you two to have a child, waiting to look at jokes." "Huh?" Quella sneered. "We're still young. Instead, you should be careful about the risks of being a high-age mother." "Quella, what do you mean?" Are you cursing me? Tess put her hands on her hips and snorted. Calvin and I plan to have children by the end of the year. But you better watch out that your family doesn't become extinct. How unhappy must you be to always be seeking our attention? Julius looked up at Calvin and suddenly laughed, looking at brother-in-law's complexion. It seems he's not been behaving lately. Be careful not to get big sister sick. Otherwise, the entire company might suffer. 3 years ago, Julius had cured old Master Radcliffe, so his medical skills were still respected by everyone. With such a comment from him, the Radcliffe family looked at the couple with odd glances. Calvin, I was wondering why you've been coming home late at night. Tell me, where have you been? Snapped Tess, with her expression changing suddenly before realizing. Julius, what do you mean? I'll tear you apart today, big sister. When you mocked us before, why didn't you say such things? Our Julius may not be good at other things, but he's never made a mistake in medical treatment, stated Quella, although she was discontented with her husband. It was satisfying to see Tess get put in her place. Moreover, Julius had indeed cured some minor ailments in the house over the years. Fine. It said that women are like wolves at 30 and like tigers at 40. Seems like Julius here is set to do exactly that. Tess gritted her teeth and cursed. Hair. Probably eating too much soft rice has weakened him. Right? Calvin glanced at Julius and walked away into the house with Tess in his arms. Exactly. Like my husband is in charge of making money, and I'm in charge of being beautiful. Not like some people, marrying a loser who has to shoulder everything on their own. As Tess laughed, she couldn't help but mock Quella. Everyone knew that Julius was a homebody, who hadn't brought home a penny in 3 years. Honestly, he was the epitome of a freeloader. There was a rule in the Radcliffe family. Any woman who got married was not to spend a single penny of the family money again. If you married well, naturally, you reap the benefits. But for someone like Quella, she had to bear the weight of the entire household alone. Hurry up and leave. Don't embarrass yourself here. Quella's nose tingled, and she stomped her way towards the house. They say it's bad for men to choose the wrong profession and for women to marry the wrong man. Over the past 3 years, she had endured countless taunts. Every time she urged Julius to go out and work, but he simply refused. Seeing other men striving outside while their wives shopped all day, she almost broke down in tears. Being women just the same. Why did she have to be the breadwinner and scramble for money outside? Are you even a man? Treating your own wife like this? Quella held back her tears, but inside, she was already at the depths of despair. Julius followed close behind, his face grim with bitterness. He wanted to work too, but every time he stepped out the door, he faced such fierce resistance that he had no choice but to stay quietly at home. Are we not meant for menial labor? Perhaps this phrase best described his feelings. But he had never spoken of this to anyone because Julius knew very well that all it would bring was ridicule. In this family, no one had ever looked up to him. Once inside the house, everyone had already taken their seats. Zaid Radcliffe's 70th birthday had brought nearly 100 family members together. Thank goodness the Radcliffe villa was spacious enough to accommodate all these descendants. As everyone took their seats in turn, Julius naturally sat at the smallest table by the door. For 3 years, during every family gathering, this had been his spot. Even the Radcliffe servant sat in front of him. I wish Grandpa a longevity that rivals the southern mountains. Grandson brings you a jade rouai. Otis stood up, presenting the high-quality jade rouai to the envious gazes of many. Thank you, my eldest grandson. But don't spend so much next time. Zaid accepted the jade rouai, his eyes swimming with adoration. It's only a few $100,000. As long as Grandpa stays healthy, it's worth every penny I spend, Otis said as he settled back into his seat with a casual smile. The jade rouai was a fake, bought through a friend, not even worth $10,000. He was currently the general manager of Radcliffe Group, with an annual salary close to $1 million. This position should have belonged to Quella, but since she married Julius, it fell into Otis's hands. Grandpa, I bring you a golden Buddha for good health and safety. Grandpa, I bring you a pair of white jade bracelets, wishing you a life free from all illnesses. For a moment, the younger generation all presented their gifts. Since all the grandchildren have given their presents, it's time for the sons-in-law to take the stage, Tess said leisurely, leaning back in her chair. Of course, hearing her, Calvin quickly stood up, taking out a brocade box. knowing that the old master hasn't been well. I specially acquired 100-year-old ginseng, hoping for the old master's immortality. No sooner had he finished speaking than the chatter started below. That Leopold family really is wealthy, yeah. I'm so envious of the eldest sister, marrying into such a good family. Indeed, women fear marrying the wrong man. Just look at Quilla. Looks like we need to cozy up to the eldest sister in the future. Calvin's gift was indeed generous. It had face value and went straight to old Master Radcliffe's heart. Wealth accumulated in life cannot be carried into death. Only precious herbs could prolong life. Calvin, you're really thoughtful. The old man didn't make a mistake. I'm proud of you. Zaid sat in his chair, grinning from ear to ear. This grandson-in-law had greatly satisfied him. It's just a few 100,000. It's not much of a gesture. While Tess might have been laughing on the outside, inside she was bleeding. If it hadn't been to secure a slice of the family inheritance, she would have never let Calvin buy such an expensive gift. Old master, our Sanford has also prepared a gift for you. Tess Radcliffe, not satisfied with Calvin stealing the spotlight, quickly nudged her own husband. Grandpa, I spent over 300,000 to procure this premium de Hompeo tea, hoping it will keep you in good health. Sanford said, presenting 2 packets of tea to Zaid. Grandpa, Chase brings you a golden longevity peach. Grandpa, Max presents a pearl. Following Tess's lead, the Radcliffe sons-in-law began to present their gifts one after another. Old Master Radcliffe was a man who loved face, so everyone chose gifts that were impressive. Gifts under 100,000 were too embarrassing to mention. Quilla, what gift have you prepared for Grandpa? As everyone presented their gifts, Tess watched Quilla with amusement, her eyes full of mirth. Episode 2. The man's promise being addressed like that, everyone shifted their focus onto Julius Reed and Quilla Radcliffe. This was indeed the grand finale. As a mere senior executive at Radcliffe Group, Quilla Radcliffe's annual income was in no way comparable to these young masters. After deducting the family's expenses, she barely had any money left. I have prepared a pot of chicken soup for grandfather. Made it myself. Julius Reed stood up, carrying the chicken soup towards Zaid Radcliffe, hoping grandfather will live a life longer than the southern mountains. Haha, that is hilariously ridiculous. Quilla, you two sure are devoted. Otis Radcliffe laughed unrestrainedly. You must have found it quite challenging. Don't make grandfather sick with your soup. Everyone says Julius Reed is a good-for-nothing. But look, he still knows how to make soup, doesn't he? The Radcliffe clan roared with laughter. Whenever they gathered together, they always mocked Julius Reed. Quilla Radcliffe's face turned beet red, wishing she could bury herself in the ground. Julius, it really must be tough on you to make such an effort. Zaid Radcliffe's face clearly expressed displeasure. Others are giving gifts worth several 100,000, and here he comes with a pot of chicken soup. He coughed and waved his hand towards Otis, saying, take it and give it to Huahua to drink. Yes. Grandfather Otis had a mischievous smile as he took the chicken soup from Julius Reed's hand and turned towards the backyard. Huahua was a dog raised in the household, dearly loved by old Master Radcliffe. As expected, something made by a good-for-nothing is only fit for a dog to drink. If people drank it, they would probably be plagued with bad luck. Wellington Radcliffe leaned back in his chair, his face full of mockery. Wellington, what do you mean by that? Quilla Radcliffe suddenly stood up. For the past 3 years, it had always been Julius Reed who cooked for the family. With Wellington's taunt, he implicated her entire family. My apologies. A slight mistake. Wellington folded his hands in a salute. A mocking light flitted in his eyes. If you're not going to drink it, please don't waste it. Julius Reed stepped in front of Otis and snatched back the chicken soup. I spent the entire morning making this, not for you to feed the dog with. Julius Reed, what are you trying to do? Otis's face turned cold as he snorted. Giving it to the dog is already doing you a favor. What do you think you are? Nothing but a good-for-nothing. Who would have thought a good-for-nothing could lose their temper? With that said, the members of the Radcliffe family erupted in laughter. Say that again. Julius Reed's eyes burned with anger. Even a cornered rabbit will bite. Otis, don't get bitten by Julius Reed. You might need a rabies vaccine. Some people ridiculed. Today is Grandpa's big birthday. For some reason, Otis suddenly felt an inexplicable fear. For 3 years, Julius Reed was ridiculed by everyone, his status less than a dog's. But today, he inexplicably felt afraid. The look in the other's eyes was as if they could devour him alive. You go to the kitchen and help out. Quella Radcliffe looked at Julius Reed, wishing he would disappear from her sight immediately. The mood having turned sour, the main hall was notably awkward. Fine. Without saying anything more, Julius Reed turned and walked out. But as he reached the door, they heard the sound of a porcelain bowl shattering from outside. What happened? Otis furrowed his brow. It's the old master's special day. Who has been so careless, big brother? That useless Julius Reed has knocked over grandfather's longevity noodles. Kyle Radcliffe rushed into the room, quick to throw the blame. While playing carelessly just a moment ago, he had run into a servant of the Radcliffe family and caused the longevity noodles prepared for old Master Radcliffe to be spilled on the ground. Ridiculous. Today is grandfather's 70th birthday. What does he think he's doing? Hearing his younger brother put it that way, Otis immediately headed for the door. The more he thought about his earlier confrontation, the angrier he became, appalled that he had been intimidated by a good-for-nothing. As it happened, Julius Reed was also walking in. The child is inexperienced and has knocked over the longevity noodles prepared for old master. Nonsense. It was clearly you who bumped into him. Kyle rushed to the door, pointed at the servant, and demanded, "You say, who was it that bumped into you?" The servant dared not offend old Master Radcliffe's favorite grandson Percival. It was the son-in-law to keep her job. She went against her conscience and pinned the blame on Julius Reed. Heard that? This piece of trash caused a disaster and still wants to frame others. How despicable! Otis Radcliffe glared at Julius Reed, his left hand fiercely grasping his collar. "Get lost. Don't let me see you again." "Enough already," Zaid Radcliffe called out softly. "Today is my birthday. We can talk about other matters later. It wasn't me who bumped into it. It was Kyle," Julius Reed said expressionlessly. "Enough. Even Grandpa is not pursuing it any longer. Why do you still have to push your luck?" Quella Radcliffe stood up, furious at his lack of fighting spirit. "If I didn't do it, why should I admit it?" Julius Reed remained stubborn. "What are you trying to do?" Zaid Radcliffe slammed his hand on the table. "Julius Reed, are you intentionally trying to cross me?" "I'm not. The truth is Kyle." Slap. Quella Radcliffe's hand struck out. "Go home." She ran quickly out of the Radcliffe family's old mansion, and as she turned around, a glimmer of tears flashed in her eyes. "Noodles. It wasn't me who knocked them over." Julius Reed looked straight at Kyle, striding away from the courtyard. "Get lost, ungrateful." That good-for-nothing has always been an eyesore. A stream of insults followed from behind. Quella Radcliffe didn't go home but sat on the steps at the doorway, crying. "I never thought it would turn out like this." Julius Reed sat next to her, helplessly hanging his head. "Does it matter?" Quella Radcliffe looked up, her face streaked with tears. "Isn't the disdain I have endured with you enough?" She knew it wasn't Julius Reed who knocked over the noodles. Kyle's clothes were still stained with dough and noodles, something even a blind person could see. But everyone was accustomed to dumping dirty water on Julius Reed. "I'm sorry." Julius Reed let out a bitter laugh. For 3 years, Quella Radcliffe bore many things others never had to endure. Compared to the ridicule she faced, what was his grievance? Are apologies useful? I also want to brag about my husband like my older sister, to be glorious all day long. Can you give me that? I don't want to be the clan's laughingstock, to be mocked and belittled constantly. Can you change that? I wish for you to take charge of this family, so I don't have to toil every day. Can you? Quella Radcliffe forced a bitter smile, her eyes filled with despair. Which woman doesn't have a sense of vanity? But she knew all this was impossible. Fine. Julius Reed stood up and walked away decisively. "I don't want to continue like this." Walking onto a deserted street, Julius Reed shouted at the sky in anger. Why his fists were clenched tight, veins on his face bulged, nails digging into his flesh. A nameless rage ignited in his heart, like a spark of fire. This fury burned fiercely within Julius Reed. For the first time in 3 years, his blood boiled. "If you truly no longer wish to sink down, perhaps I can help you." Suddenly, a man in black appeared on the otherwise empty street. "You were never meant to be so ordinary." The man in black took out a ring from his chest and in an instant was in front of Julius Reed. "Now, come and remake your splendor." The stranger offered the ring gently. "If you aren't angry, nobody can break this shackling. Only anger can ignite the fighting spirit within you. I've waited 3 years to finally see you angry. Put this on, and become your true self again." Julius Reed closed his eyes lightly, feeling as though something was calling him. Yet he could not grasp it. Driven by his subconscious, he gently slid his thumb into the ring. Episode 3 Memory Awakening hum. It felt like a heavenly thunder struck from above, hitting his head instantly. Countless memory fragments flooded in like a breached dam. Some were within reach yet untouchable. My name is Julius Reed. I live in Gonzales City, and I have been married into the Radcliffe family for 3 years. Quella Radcliffe, the richest man in Gonzales City. He was my puppet, but why can't I remember some things? The 10,000 Mountain Alliance. My head. Julius Reed's eyes snapped open as he threw a punch at the wall in front of him. Crack. The solid wall actually developed fine cracks. The street was silent and deserted. Who are you? By the time Julius Reed turned his head back, wanting to ask more secrets, he discovered that the person in black had disappeared without a trace at some point. His expression was grave, and his pupils shrank sharply. No one knew what he was thinking. Gradually, the intense cold and murderous aura slowly dissipated. 3 years. The humiliation you've given me will be returned twofold. Between Julius Reed's brows, there was an unmistakable intent to kill. In his eyes, it was as if flames were dancing. After a moment of recollection, Julius Reed took out his phone and dialed the number from his memory. You have 10 minutes to bring the stuff I want to Ellsworth Street Alley. After saying this, Julius Reed hung up the phone. Quick, get the car ready at once. At the same time, inside the office of the Titan Group, Quella Radcliffe, the richest man in Gonzales City, pushed away his disheveled secretary. A moment ago his face was flush, but now he was breaking into a cold sweat. No one knew what Quella Radcliffe had just experienced. Chairman, what's the matter? Why the hurry? Although the secretary was somewhat displeased, she still hurried to button up her shirt. Damn it, how can't it be urgent? If this ancestor gets offended, my life is not necessarily safe. Quella Radcliffe pulled up his pants and ran out in a flurry. He glanced at his $1 million watch, feeling even more urgent. Everyone thought he, the richest man in Gonzales City, led an enviable life, but only Quella Radcliffe knew just how precarious his position was. For the past 10 years, a blade had been hanging over his head. Everything he had today could easily be taken away by just a word from that person. Hurry the fuck up. Drive the fastest. I have money. I'm not afraid to pay fines. Just don't hit a tricycle with an old lady. The black Rolls Royce sped all the way, and although the air conditioning was on in the car, Quella Radcliffe continued to sweat. 10 years ago, the Titan Group emerged out of nowhere. 7 years ago, Quella Radcliffe suddenly became the richest man in Gonzales City. This speed made countless people sigh with longing. The outside world thought he, Quella Radcliffe, had stumbled into good fortune. But it was all the young man's manipulation. No one knew just how powerful this young man was. Even Quella Radcliffe had only heard some stories. Exactly 10 minutes after hanging up the phone, a black Rolls Royce pulled up in front of Julius Reed. Mr. Reed. Quella Radcliffe got out of the car, sweating profusely. He swallowed a gulp of saliva, feeling that his legs were already too weak to stand. If others saw the richest man in Gonzales City kowtowing to a youth, their jaws would probably drop. But Quella Radcliffe knew all too well how terrifying the person in front of him was. Start cooperating with the Radcliffe Group immediately, and listen to my arrangements for other matters. Julius Reed's voice was cold as ice. Understood. I'll send someone to take care of it right away. Quella Radcliffe was trembling with fear, as if walking on thin ice. At such close range, he was breathing extremely fast. Did you bring the thing I wanted? Julius Reed turned around and looked at the Rolls Royce in front of him, letting out a light laugh. You've had a pretty good 10 years, haven't you? It's all thanks to Mr. Reed. I dare not forget it for a moment. Quella Radcliffe quickly knelt on the ground, lifting a wooden box with both hands. Even though the weather was refreshing, his forehead was already covered in sweat. You can go now. Don't talk about today's matters to anyone. Julius Reed took the wooden box and pulled out a black card from inside. I hope you don't disappoint me. After these words, his figure paused and then disappeared from the street. Thud. Quella Radcliffe could no longer bear it and collapsed to the ground. 10 years ago, when he heard about this from his father's mouth, he couldn't believe it. It turned out that for hundreds of years, the Cook family had been serving this young man. Until today, 10 years later, when he discovered the youth's appearance hadn't changed for a moment. That's when he knew that there really were people in the world who could live for hundreds, even thousands of years. This is truly a living legend. A video cook took a deep breath, but his legs shook too much to stand. At that moment, the sky had gradually darkened. Julius Reed walked alone under the street lamps, beginning to accept these memories. The fragmented pieces were incoherent, seeming to trace only up to about a decade ago. Further back, the memories were like being locked in a cage, unreachable. Forget it. I should go home first. He looked at the black card in his hand and smiled faintly. You've suffered with me for 3 years. Now it's time for you to enjoy the good life. Within this card lay astonishing wealth. Everything had been destined from the moment he set this plan into motion 10 years ago. The memories had only partially been recovered, but Julius Reed underwent a profound transformation. In his brow, there was a faint hint of murderous intent. He was completely different from the timid youth he had been before. Handsome. Save me just then. A woman's call interrupted his recollections and she quickly ran up to him. Julius Reed furrowed his brow. Not far away, 4 men ran toward them wildly. Scram, kid. If you don't wanna get beaten up. Their attitude was arrogant as they bore the tattoos of Azure Dragon and White Dragon on their bodies. Scram. Julius Reed spat out a word, and the murderous aura began to spread. He didn't want to meddle, but these people had truly annoyed him. Damn it. Hit him. Teach him a lesson for being a busybody. The ruffians rolled up their sleeves, ready to start throwing punches. Be careful. The woman hid behind Julius Reed, trembling with fear. Bang. Julius Reed threw a punch. Crack. As a bone-breaking sound echoed, the first hooligan to move was lying on the ground, wailing in pain. Julius Reed didn't say a word but walked up to the hooligan and stomped down. Crack. The leg bone was directly crushed. Practitioner. Run for it. A chill went down the spines of the others, who threw down their injured companion and scrambled away in terror. Big brother, spare my life. The remaining hooligan screamed, wailing incessantly. Scram. Julius Reed glanced at him, frightening the hooligan into scrambling away into the darkness, despite the pain of his broken bones. Handsome. Thank you. After seeing those people run away, Lance Casey gazed at Julius Reed with a sort of infatuation. The way he fought was just too cool. Can I add your WeChat? She took out her phone, feeling a little excited. No. Julius Reed walked away with large strides. Hey, why are you like this? Wait for me. I will definitely find you. Lance Casey kept shouting behind him while taking out her phone and frantically snapping pictures. When Julius Reed entered into one of the most bustling shopping centers in Gonzales City, Roosevelt Plaza, it was already past 9 in the evening. He took out his phone and found several missed calls, all from Quella Radcliffe. Julius Reed felt a warmth in his heart. It seemed that his wife really cared about him. During the time the memories were awakening, he was too busy accepting them, and simply couldn't answer the phone. Why haven't you come home? As soon as he called back, he heard Quella Radcliffe's anxious voice. I've got something to take care of. I'll be back in an hour, Julius Reed said calmly. This afternoon. Never mind. Don't push yourself. Come back soon. Quella Radcliffe swallowed the words she had almost said. She hoped more than anything that her husband would stand out, but she was worried that pushing him too hard might drive him to extremes. Okay, Julius Reed said simply and hung up the phone, then walked into the shopping center. Episode 4 Gifts. Julius Reed wanted to give Quella Radcliffe a gift. After pondering on the road, he decided to buy the entire most famous crystal necklace in Gonzales City, a gift coveted by countless young girls, the Dawn Light. Only this unique crystal necklace could be worthy of Quella Radcliffe. It wasn't long before he walked into a jewelry store that extended across the nation, called Isle of Love. Isle of Love is a subsidiary of Bright Sky Group, and only a top-tier conglomerate like Bright Sky Group could create a brand like Isle of Love and a top-of-the-line jewelry series like the Dawn Light. Bright Sky Group is involved in various industries, with countless products under its umbrella, and Isle of Love is a premium jewelry brand lavishly crafted under Bright Sky's flag. The target customers are those super wealthy individuals. Each piece of jewelry here has its unique code, ensuring limited distribution. It highlights one's status. It could be said that Isle of Love's products represent the pinnacle of luxury jewelry in the country and are a symbol of money and status. I'll take this one. After entering the store, Julius Reed pointed to the most eye-catching necklace in the showcase. This necklace was the Dawn Light, which became an overnight sensation in Gonzales City half a year earlier. Countless girls longed for it, yet after half a year, still no buyer had come forward. The reason was nothing else. It was too expensive. So, this is our shop's treasure, called the Dawn Light, and we currently have only one in Gonzales City. Do you see this crystal on top? It symbolizes dawn. This crystal is extremely precious, and there are only 10 pieces in the Dawn Light series nationwide. Each has its unique code. The crystal represents pure love, making this necklace very suitable to present to one's lover. The sales attendant introduced the necklace diligently, albeit with some skepticism. This necklace had a price tag of 13.14 million, and although many people had looked at it several times, they could not make up their minds to buy it. Judging by the customer's attire, he clearly did not seem part of their consumer demographic. Julius Reed took out a bank card and slapped it on the counter. Just swipe the card. I'm in a hurry. You'd better be quick. As his memories gradually returned, his understanding of these treasures also steadily grew. Sure enough, such a large crystal would not come cheap, especially under the light. It would refract a brilliant radiance. If it were in the sunshine, it would probably be even more dazzling. Most importantly, he was not short of money. Sir, this necklace is priced at 13.14 million. Are you sure you want it? The sales attendant kindly reminded. After all, such an expensive item was rarely purchased by anyone in a place like Gonzales City. Swipe the card. Julius Reed nodded his head. 1,314. Quite an auspicious number, sir. It's 13.14 million, the sales attendant reminded again. She thought the customer might have misheard. From his appearance, he did not look like someone wealthy, so how could he spend over 10 million on a necklace? This was a huge sum of money. I know. Swipe the card. Julius Reed became a little impatient. He was not deaf. Was there a need to repeat it over and over? All right. Please wait. The sales attendant, with a dubious look, went to the cashier's desk. Swipe this. The customer wants to buy the Dawn Light. What? That's an Italian designer's limited edition, costing 13.14 million with the cashier's exclamation. The other sales attendants were also drawn in. He doesn't look like a typical wealthy scion. Could there possibly be money on that card? This necklace has been in the store for half a year. People come to take pictures every day, but I've never seen anyone really looking to buy. At 13.14 million. If it's true, I'm incredibly envious of that girl. Upon hearing the news, the store manager also came over. It had hung for half a year, seen by many, but bought by none. Hurry up and swipe. Let's see if there's actually any money. If they could close this deal, they would all earn a hefty commission. Great. The cashier took the card, took a deep breath, and gently swiped it through the POS machine. Damn. He really is rich. Everyone's look at Julius Reed changed. He really keeps a low profile. You can't tell he's wealthy at all. If only my boyfriend was like this. Olayinka Davenport. I'm warning you. Don't you dare set your sights on the customer. The store manager scolded Olayinka Davenport and quickly walked up to Julius Reed. Sir, please take a seat here for a moment. I'll go pour you a cup of tea. No need. I'm in a hurry. Julius Reed took his card back and walked to the counter. Sir, add me on WeChat, so you can contact me anytime you need something. The store manager struck a seductive pose, but it was wasted as Julius Reed didn't even glance at her. The manager is too much, telling us not to add WeChat. Then she goes over to add him herself. Olayinka Davenport snorted softly. She hurriedly packaged the necklace with great care and placed it on the counter. Without saying anything more, Julius Reed picked up the necklace called Dawn's Light and walked out of the mall. If he didn't get home soon, his mother-in-law might really lock the door. Our shop's treasure has been sold, to a handsome guy no less. I wonder which girl is lucky enough to have him. Olayinka Davenport took out her phone, snapped a photo of his back, and sent it to the group chat called Plastic Sisters. The one for 13.14 million. Damn. I'm so jealous. A group chat user named Little Fairy sent a message. Exactly. 13.14 million. And he didn't even blink an eye. And so low-key. You really can't tell he's rich. Olayinka Davenport, thinking back, was still filled with envy. Quilla Radcliffe, when are you going to bring your husband out to meet us? It's been 3 years, and we haven't seen him even once. After Little Fairy finished speaking, she sent a photo to the group. It was of a silhouette. Due to the darkness, it was particularly blurry. Today my Prince Charming appeared. I think I might really be in love. She then sent a bunch of little heart emojis. Lance Casey, stop being lovesick. Hey, why do our two photos from behind look so alike after zooming in on the photo? Olayinka Davenport exclaimed. Damn. Even the clothes are exactly the same. Oh my god. What if Prince Charming was the one who bought me the necklace? I feel so blessed I could die. Hawk Casey posted a string of images and rolled around on her bed in excitement. After she got home, she became obsessed with the thought of Julius Reed. When she opened her eyes, and even when she closed them. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, Quella Radcliffe was also comparing the photos. It looks like him, but how could it be 13.14 million? That's astronomical. She lay in bed, feeling uneasy. She really wished the man in the photo was Julius Reed. What woman wouldn't want her husband to give her such an expensive gift? But Quella Radcliffe knew very well that Julius Reed couldn't afford it. He didn't even have 13.14. Although the clothes and build were strikingly similar, let alone Julius Reed. Even Calvin Leopold, who was so wealthy, would be reluctant to buy it. 13 million might not be considered too much, but it still seems extravagant for just a piece of jewelry. She sighed deeply, lying in bed looking at her phone. Maybe when there's a chance in the future. My husband is very busy. Quella Radcliffe replied in the group chat. With her husband being like this and herself being so competitive, how could she have the heart to show him off? Just then, the bedroom door was gently pushed open. Episode 5 group changes back already. Julius Reed walked to Quella Radcliffe's bedside and placed the necklace gift box above her head. This is for you. For me. Quella Radcliffe immediately sat up from the bed. It had been 3 years since their marriage, and Julius Reed had never given her any gift. This was the first time. What did you do this afternoon? I told you. No stealing. No robbery. You hear me? She was genuinely worried that he might take the wrong path because of something she said. Rest assured, I did some odd jobs this afternoon. When I passed by a shop on my way back, I thought of getting a gift for you. Julius Reed walked to his own single bed and gently sat down. There were 2 beds in the room, one for each person. 3 years of marriage, separate beds. That's good. Then watching her husband in name only, Quella Radcliffe felt a sudden ripple in her heart. As long as you're willing to make an effort, even if you are just an ordinary man, I won't blame you. She opened the brocade box, and inside was a necklace, extremely luxurious. But then she remembered, how could Julius Reed afford something nice? Yet Quella Radcliffe still put it around her neck and smiled sweetly. I really like it, even though she knew it couldn't be expensive. It was the first gift Julius Reed had given her. Whatever you like, I will give you in the future. Julius Reed lay back on the bed, gazing at the ceiling. Starting from tomorrow, I will make sure you live a good life. Quella Radcliffe compared the photo on her phone with Julius Reed and found they did look somewhat alike. But she quickly dismissed the thought. 13.14 million. Who knows how many years it would take to save. The next day, explosive news swept through Gonzales City. Titan Group decided to collaborate with Radcliffe Group, preparing to dominate the electronic industry in Gonzales City. Every member of the Radcliffe family was immersed in boundless joy and urgently convened a board meeting. As a member of the Radcliffe family, Quella Radcliffe was also invited. Mr. Radcliffe, we have no idea how much money we will get this time. Quella's mother, Knox Ridge, was touching up her makeup in the living room. Our family's shares are pitifully small. There's probably not much to be done with them. Bill Radcliffe sighed deeply. As a son of the Radcliffe family, he had the least shares, barely making over 100,000 a year. It wasn't enough for the household. It's all because of this good-for-nothing son-in-law. If it weren't for him, Quella would never have ended up in such straits. Knox Ridge was fuming with anger every time this matter came up. 3 years ago, Quella was the Radcliffe family's most cherished child. But ever since Julius Reed married into the family, the whole clan began to ostracize them. After all, a girl who was already married off had no value to be utilized. Instead, Donnie Radcliffe had become the new favorite of the Radcliffe family, rumored to be marrying into the Brandon family of Gonzales City. Otis Radcliffe's status soared, even bossing Bill Radcliffe around on a daily basis. Mom, cut it out, will you? Quella Radcliffe sneaked a glance at Julius Reed and noticed he leaned against the door. grinning foolishly. In 3 years, Knoxbridge had berated him countless times, but he always just smiled stupidly in response. You're still defending him? This useless man has completely disgraced us. The more Knoxbridge spoke, the angrier she became, pointing at Julius Reed's nose and scolding. You good for nothing. Get out. I don't want to see you for another second. You are not to attend today and embarrass me further for 3 years. She had consistently belittled him, hoping to drive their son-in-law away from their home. But no matter how she scolded, he just laughed it off. Mom, Julius is also part of the Radcliffe family. Why can't he go? Quella Radcliffe furrowed her brow, feeling dissatisfied. Even though Julius Reed wasn't much of an achiever, for the past 3 years he had diligently done laundry and cooking. He never fought back or retaliated against verbal abuse. Even raising a dog would stir some feelings, let alone a living, breathing person. All right, hold your tongue. We're almost out of time. Let's hurry. Belle Radcliffe glanced at the clock and stood up to leave. Don't mind her, Quella Radcliffe whispered to Julius Reed as she walked up to him. For some reason, since receiving the gift yesterday, her heart had experienced some changes. At least, the other person was genuinely willing to make changes for her. Mom's words do make sense. But don't worry, I won't let you suffer anymore. Julius Reed looked at Quella Radcliffe with a face full of happiness. He really wanted to tell Quella Radcliffe everything, but his memory was still not fully recovered, and even if he did tell her, most likely no one would believe him. They might even consider him a lunatic. Come with me. After all, you are a part of the Radcliffe family. For the first time in 3 years, Quella Radcliffe took the initiative to include him. Okay, Julius Reed nodded and followed her downstairs. The 4 of them took Belle Radcliffe's decade-old passer to the Radcliffe group. Look at all these people. Mr. Radcliffe, you're just a loser. Just like your son-in-law seeing the Audis, BMWs, and other luxury cars at the company entrance. Knoxbridge flared up again. She was vain at heart, yet sadly, she lived the worst life among them. Whenever she encountered such situations, she felt she couldn't hold her head up in front of others. When she married into the Radcliffe family, she thought she would be rich and prosperous. But who would have thought that Rashad Radcliffe would be so incompetent, and their life would get worse by the day? Mom, having a car is enough. It's just for transportation. Although Quella Radcliffe said this, deep down, she really wished she had her own car. I've seen a second-hand car, and I'll buy it to take you to work and pick you up every day, Julius Reed said with a smile. Great. Quella Radcliffe didn't say much, but as long as Julius Reed was willing to work hard, she would definitively support him. You can't even afford a bicycle. Knoxbridge slammed the car door violently. We shouldn't have brought this embarrassing thing with us today. By this time, many members of the Radcliffe family were already waiting at the company entrance. Belle, how many years have you been driving this Passat? Why haven't you changed cars yet? Elliot Radcliffe came over and fiercely kicked the tires twice. My son-in-law bought me an X5 a few days ago. It's really comfortable to sit in. He was Belle Radcliffe's older brother, in charge of procurement at the Radcliffe Group, and had not been shy about skimming a little extra for himself. The son-in-law also worked within the group and was even more ruthless when it came to money. It's good enough for now. Funds are tight, Belle Radcliffe said with an awkward smile and a slightly reddening face. Look at someone's son-in-law, then look at ours. The more Knoxbridge thought about it, the angrier she became, and she decided to sit back in the car by herself. More and more people gathered until there were dozens standing at the entrance. Yo, Quella, that necklace isn't bad. Tess Radcliffe came over with Calvin Leopold. Sister, did you rush to spend the money after hearing about the group's cooperation with Titan Group? This was given by Julius. Quella Radcliffe instinctively covered it with her hand. She wore it to encourage Julius Reed, but she didn't expect Tess Radcliffe to notice. Speaking of necklaces, it reminds me of something. Did you hear? The Dawn Light was bought by someone yesterday. I also heard about it. A lot of people in my circle are posting about it, and there are photos too. Who is the tycoon that bought it? In the end, women are very sensitive about luxury items, and upon mentioning this, they all begin to gossip. HMPH. He just made a move quicker than others. Otherwise, my Calvin Leopold was about to buy it for me. Tess Radcliffe was very vain and always wanted others to know how well she lived in any occasion. Yes, we had the money ready. It's such a pity Calvin Leopold was quite cooperative. Although his family had some assets. Buying a necklace for over 10 million would probably result in his father beating him to death. I'm so envious of you. Marrying such a good husband. Many female members of the Radcliffe family cast envious glances her way. Hey, look at what Quella is wearing around her neck. Doesn't it look so much like the Dawn Light? Someone with sharp eyes suddenly noticed the resemblance.